All right, so uh, we're going to do another quick round of negligence theory cases. I'm going to do this all in one video rather than making a bunch of different videos for a bunch of very small cases. But I am going to title this one with a case name. So, what case gets the honor of that? We're going to call this one Vaugn v. Menlove, but that's going to be a very quick thing. So, um, basically, guy builds a haystack. Haystacks apparently spontaneously combust. I'm not a farmer. I didn't know that. But they do, apparently. If you leave a haystack, just the friction and the weight, it'll eventually catch on fire. Hay's very flammable. I do know that. I was a Boy Scout. So, he builds a stack of hay, and it burns down to the neighbor's house. Now, the neighbor told him, hey, buddy, that haystack is not built right. It'll catch on fire. And he's like, meh, I'll take the risk. Well, he says, I acted on my judgment. My judgment, that's what I did. Court says, wow, that's great. We're really excited that you acted on your judgment, but that's not the standard. The standard is a reasonable person. So generally speaking, to breach a duty of care, you have to have acted outside the bounds of what a reasonable person would have done. It was unreasonable for him to build that haystack. It was going to catch on fire. According to the court, everyone knows that. That's direct quote from the decision is, everyone knows that haystacks catch on fire. I did not know that. I imagine most of you did not either, but well, there you go. So, be safe around your haystacks. All right. Roberts versus Ring, next case. A man hits a boy in the car. Man is negligent in this case. What made him negligent? Well, he's blind a little bit, and he's a little deaf, and he's a little slow. Turns out, if you're infirm and you can't properly react to the road situations, it is your fault if you fail to properly react to the road situation. That's pretty much where it falls down, right? Is your duty of care changes and escalates based off your own abilities. If you can't properly operate a car, you have a higher duty of care when it comes to operating a car. Daniel versus Evans. Man hits a kid who's on a motorcycle. And ultimately, the issue here is whether or not the kid is held to the standards of care of an adult, right? Because the kid, if he is, then he's partially responsible. And the court agrees. He is. When a child, mind you, a child is anyone who's a minor. A 17-year-old is a child. They're not a teenager. They are a teenager in layman's terms, certainly. But no, that's not a legal category. They are a minor, which is just a child. They're a child. So when a child is engaged in adult activities, they're held to the standard of an adult, which is why oftentimes you'll hear people getting tried as adults. I'll give a really interesting example. I don't remember. I think they were ultimately not tried as adults. The two girls who murdered their friend for Slender Man, that's a real thing that happened. I believe everybody wanted them tried as adults. But that's not an adult reason to murder someone. Right? So you can't try them as adults in my mind because they're not acting like adults. But if they murdered their friend to steal their friend's car, I would say, yeah, there you go. That's adult. That's greed. Greed is adult. So I would say, yeah, if you're acting as an adult, then you're liable as an adult. When you drink and drive, to me, you should be tried as an adult. That's two different adult activities. I don't care if you're 12. You're trying to act like an adult. 12-year-olds are different, obviously. If you're 14, we'll go with that. All right. Next case. Broning. Love these names. It's just two L's in a row. Brunig. Brunig is probably how that's pronounced. Brunig. Versus Family Insurance Company. Crazy woman who thinks that on the orders of God, she is Batman, and so she can fly. I'm just gonna let everyone who is still watching the video breathe for a minute. This woman thinks that on the orders of God, she is Batman, which is not Batman's origin story, and that because of this, she can fly. Batman can't fly. Batman's Batmobile can't fly because she thinks she's in Batman's Batmobile when she's driving. So she swerves into the other lane and tries to fly. There's so much wrong with that. Anyway, but she's crazy. So the question here is foreknowledge. Did she have forewarning? And the court orders that this is a question for the jury, and that, but that insanity should be treated like a physical impairment. Well, here's the thing. Did she have forewarning that she was insane? Yeah, she did. And by she, it means the people around her, right? Ultimately, if you're insane, can you know? The actual answer is yes. There are cases of people who are insane that did know. There are people who didn't know. So there's fine lines here, but ultimately, it's a question for the jury. Did she breach her duty of care? And I think in this case they said she did not because she didn't know. But again, it's a question for the jury in this case, right? And in any case, did you breach your duty of care, and that with the knowledge that that duty of care scales based off your own physical capabilities. All right, Fletcher versus City of Aberdeen. Blind man falls in a hole. Not a sitcom setup, actual legal case. I'm aware that it's not funny that a blind man fell in a hole, but it also sounds like you could make it funny, you know? So, Fletcher versus City of Aberdeen. The city moves the barricade that they had around a hole. City argues, well, he fell in the hole, but we don't have a duty of care to blind people. That's what they argue. They basically say, well, we have a duty of care to regular persons, but a regular person wouldn't have fallen in a hole. He only fell because he was blind. Court says that's dumb. Court says, you were negligent, as the city should know that disabled persons would use the street, and they owe a duty to all persons who may use the street, and they owe the duty of care, to all persons who use the street to make sure that street is usable for that person. That person who is blind, it's supposed to be usable for them. So you need to leave the barricade up. I have some questions in this case specifically, like if he was blind and he even said he had a cane, why could he not feel the hole? But I'm not blind. I've never used tapping a cane to move around, so I'll just go ahead and say maybe he thought it was a step down. I don't think you should have to check. But yeah, I think, you should make sure that you keep the barricades and put a cone up, Have somebody watch the hole. Why is no one... I know the guy was working on the whole move, but why is there only one guy in the hole? That feels dangerous to me. All right, last case. Denver and Rio Grande RR versus Peterson. This case has a bunch of really interesting facts behind it that don't matter, and I've never seen them. This case is super easy. Wealth does not affect your duty to care. Ability might, but your monetary wealth does not affect your duty to care. It does not make you have more duty because, you should take more prudent steps. No. You can take reasonable steps. So just because you have a lot of money does not mean you have more duty or less. Sometimes it might feel like they have less, but no, they don't. They have the same duty of care. Reasonable. That's your standard. All right. With that, I am done for the night. Please leave any comments below. Please leave your opinions. I really do like on strict liability versus negligence. There's a lot of really interesting arguments to be had here. This is, the meat and potatoes of torts, I think a lot of the time, is should you be liable, Do you have to be negligent to be liable? I fall down on the standard of I think we treat negligence as too high of a standard. I don't think you should always be liable, but I do think that negligence should have a higher standard. I think reasonability is not enough. I think prudent. I think it needs to be prudent, which is a higher standard than reasonable. It's not always a higher standard, but it is a slightly higher standard. So, all right. And with that, I'm done for the night. I'm going to upload these videos. Leave your comments below, like and subscribe and all that other YouTuber nonsense. Bye.